Welcome, everybody, to the Mind Method Podcast with your hosts, Matt and Tamar. Thank you so much for joining us. Tamar is having some kind of issue with her hands today. A little Ricky Bobby going on. You okay?
I don't know what
she can't control her energy. She's super excited. Today we're going to talk about energetic blocks and things that block our abundance. It seems to be a common topic for a lot of our clients, for a lot of people that we talk to. They seem to have, hurdles, blockages. They seem to have these things in their lives that they're coming up against that are, in fact, blocking them from manifesting and attracting their abundance in their lives. So let's talk about what are some of those common blocks and what can we do to overcome them? Because we want to make sure you guys, when you're listening to this podcast, have things that you can take away as like really, really super helpful in your journey. So if you are experiencing those kinds of things, you can come away from this episode and say, wow, that was really helpful. And now I know how to implement that in my life to overcome some of the blocks that I'm having. So what are some of the common blocks that people experience?
Yeah. So look, I would say that it comes down to 3 universal blocks and that most people have one or more of them in different facets. So block number 1, I'm not worthy. Because if you think on any level that you are not worthy of being rich, of having the perfect relationship, having your ideal body, then you probably are not going to take the action that you need to take. You're going to be procrastinating. You're going to make excuses. You're going to find ways to get in your own way. And it really is the underlying issue. It's not that you're procrastinating because you're lazy. It's you're procrastinating because you think you're not worthy. Mm-hmm. So we can get into them in more detail. But the 3 universal blocks. So number 1, I'm not worthy. Number 2, people leave me. So many people have a fear of abandonment. They've had loved ones come and go, or situations that they really love come and go. And so they get to a point where they don't want to expect too much, or they don't want to, get too involved or too committed into something because they think it's just going to go away or disappear, and that people specifically are going to leave. And then universal block number 3 is I can't trust. So who in life hasn't had some sort of situation where they've been completely let down, felt betrayed? But for a lot of people, that gets so deeply rooted that the lack of trust, whether it be in situations or an internal lack of trust, can also lead to inaction or a sense of mistrust in the process, in themselves. So I like to break it down into the 3 universal blocks. And then from there, you can usually fit the limiting beliefs and the blocks into one of those categories.
I mean, I've never heard you frame them in those 3 categories before. So for me, it's interesting because I think each of those blocks could be solved with working on the self-image. Every single one of those, it's I feel this, and I feel this. I don't feel worthy. What was the other one?
People leave me.
So there's a fear of abandonment, and I don't trust people. So there's a lack of self-love, there's a lack of self-belief, and there's limiting beliefs about their own ability and potential. I think is a lot of what you're describing in the 3 blocks can be addressed by working on the self-image, right? Which is a huge part of what we teach people, and it should be a huge part of your lives as part of your personal development journey. If you aren't working on your internal self-image, on how you see yourself internally, this should be your clue that that's a huge aspect, because we say this all the time, that you'll never surpass in terms of success your self-image, the internal self-image that you hold. So it's extremely important. I had a client recently who's saying, I'm having this, and he doesn't know it's a block, but he's saying, I'm just feeling really frustrated with things not progressing at the speed that I want. And I'm so frustrated. And I look around and like everyone else is doing these amazing things, and then I feel inadequate. Now, again, there's a self-image issue right there. It's a self-image. It's like, why do you feel inadequate? You don't believe in yourself. You don't really truly believe that you're able or capable. So you don't have belief in your infinite potential from your creator. So like, that whole thing, let's get real deep into it, is like, it really stems from getting to know yourself on a deep inner level and finding, and I talk about this with all our clients, is, and anyone I meet, is on any personal development journey, on any level, on any topic, it all boils down to belief. What do you actually believe? Because if you believe that you have infinite potential and that you are the creator of your environment, you can create anything from your thoughts. Now you have that belief in yourself to go out and do anything. So I don't fear abandonment because I believe in myself and my own ability to create. So people are going to be drawn and attracted to that. And I don't need their validation because I love myself, because I worked on my self-image. So it's not just one answer. There's multiple facets to it.
Yeah. I guess I haven't really thought of it under the self-image window, but I think you're right. I think that all of the universal blocks actually do come down to a self-image, also comes down to a programming issue.
For sure.
Right? Because our self-image is dictated by the way that we are programmed as kids. So I think that a lot of these inner blocks as well, I think that when you do self-image work and you work on reinventing and really finding out who you are, who your authentic self is, and in fact, who you want to be, that is usually accompanied by doing some inner child work, right? What happened in my childhood that gave me the belief that I have today, right? And what about myself and my beliefs do I need to identify and rewire?
My limiting beliefs.
My limiting beliefs, yeah. Or I would argue, or all beliefs.
Right.
You can have the belief that you can earn $100,000, but not $1 million. That's a belief.
It's a limited one.
No. Okay. So maybe that is a limited belief.
Yeah.
For some, okay. But some people, I guess my argument there, some people don't realize it's a limiting belief until they get to the point in their growth where they realize and expand their capacity for what they deem reasonable and logical that they can accomplish in their lifetime.
You're right. Yeah.
But I think that the notion of all of these blocks does come down to a set of programming. And in fact, when you call something a block, it does make sense that it comes as a result of the programming that you have had, because your programming is what sets the limits on you, right? Because the limitations in your life, we teach clients that your limits are the ones you put on yourself. But it's not that you are at fault. It's not that you actively put them on yourself by choosing disbelief or choosing a low self-image. It's in fact limiting beliefs that were programmed into you by people that probably really loved you and cared for you and wanted nothing but the best for you. But their framework of how they saw the world was so specific that they implanted that into your subconscious mind. Now, I've been studying a lot of Carl Jung. And he breaks down the conscious subconscious in an interesting way, where he says that the conscious mind, your logical mind, right, the one that receives information and can decipher, that's your ego, right? And that your subconscious mind, and dare I say, spoiler alert, your subconscious mind is responsible for your behaviors, your beliefs, and your actions. Your subconscious mind is actually a culmination of many shadows. Okay. So shadows, what are shadows? Shadows are sort of negative aspects of our own psyche. Anger, resentment, laziness, procrastination. And he says that often we get triggered by other people because it's actually a fear we have about ourselves. So we hate people who are lazy because we would just hate to be a lazy person, right? But in fact, in working with these shadows, which you can also call limiting beliefs, right? Which you can also call blocks, in working with your shadows, they can actually be the key to starting to really unlock yourself. And then in fact, when you become aware of your shadows, when you become aware that I would get really angry in certain situations, that can actually be a plus. Because in situations, if somebody is calling me out or if somebody puts me down, I can use my anger to speak up for myself. And then that negative limiting belief can actually become something positive. Or if you see yourself as someone who is lazy, maybe it means you're not lazy, but you do need to have a work-life balance so that you do feel an element where you are getting to rest, right? And so it's a matter of figuring out what it is about you that you would call a limiting belief, right? Getting to the root of where that came from and how that got implanted into you. So certain negative beliefs about yourself were implanted into you from parents, like we're not meant to be wealthy, right? You're like a B student, right? And in your brain, that translates into I'm not very smart. And so you operate the rest of your life as someone who's like, I'm just a B student. And that becomes your philosophy of how you do all things, right? And so when you work with these types of limitations, is you use them instead of blocks, but as stepping stones, right? And areas to work on that can actually progress your self-image and progress and you can reinvent and recreate. And when you realize that it's a fluid process, you're not a fixed person as an adult. So all of these blocks, some of which are self-imposed, some of which are programmed, right? These are what are holding you back. So first, what are they? Second, where did they come from? And third, how do you want to be? How do you want to show up in the world? Right? And so I actually really like the idea of the ego and the shadow, because we all have things about ourselves that we kind of try to repress. And when you try to repress, I'm not an angry person. I'm the most calm, patient person in the world. Watch me be so calm. But deep down, you're like, you have that little festering bit of anger. When you realize that anger, when channeled correctly, can actually be really positive, you can let go of some of the energy that has been building up, trying to, keep it down.
That's an interesting theory. So instead of trying to overcome and reframe and lose the anger and change yourself so you're no longer angry, you're saying sit with the anger,
reframe
and use it positively.
Yeah, I'm saying reframe it into a new image of your anger, where it's not something that you're constantly trying to repress and therefore you're trying to act like someone you're not. When you accept that part of your personality is that you have that little bit of anger, that's okay, because you're going to use it in situations where it is useful and drives you forward.
Wow. That is an interesting theory.
And that is a reframing of that limiting belief and making it into a positive one. And in fact, not using that energy, right? Repressing feelings takes a lot of energy. And a lot of people can feel very weighed down by it. Like, ugh.
The only thing I want to make sure everyone understands very clearly that I think the piece of the message I want to make sure is very clear, because of what you're saying, I agree with. But I think what needs to be said is, if you identify part of your, let's say you have a shadow inside where you're angry. Number one, anger comes from something deeper, right? So there's a piece of you that's angry at yourself for not doing something, right? Because you have a fear of something, or you haven't done something you should have, or there's anger because of something deeper. But I think the most important thing to say is, if you identify that anger, it's more than just let's reframe it and use it for our own benefit. It's that, like you said before, we're fluid and that we can become anything. It's that you don't have to just live with that anger the rest of your life, and that's who you are. That's complete garbage. Right. You can become a person that is completely free of anger. You can become a person who's completely free of frustration. You can change every single thing about how you identify yourself, who you think you are, all those limiting beliefs. All of your set beliefs, like Tamar said, that are programmed into you are fluid. So it's not, I think the message is very strong, is like, use that anger in a positive way to speak up for yourself, or reframing it. Yes. But understand that that's not where the journey stops. It's not, we're just going to reframe our anger and we're just going to continue to always be an angry person. That's not the point. The point is, identify that shadow, and then let's start reframing it to use it for our benefit. But then also, let's figure out the cause of that anger, and then let's change that. Let's start choosing a different thought. Let's start reprogramming those limited beliefs about ourselves. And whatever we're angry about, whatever that thing is inside of us, let's address that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we can overcome our fears. We can identify the fear, overcome the fear, and we can completely dissolve that anger.
Yeah, well, yes. And let me say that theory differently. Let me rephrase it in a different way. Let me use one of my favorite Abraham Hicks analogies, right? You're a buoy. You're floating on the water. Da 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 da, so comfy floating, right? And then I come and I push you down under the water. I have to put a good amount of force on you to keep you underwater, right? And in order for you to rise back up to the top, you don't have to push against me and fight me. You simply have to let go of my resistance, and then you effortlessly flow back up. So often when we have things that are pulling us down negatively, we don't have to fight. Like if you have the anger, you don't have to fight yourself. Like, I'm not an angry person, and this is what I'm focused on. And I'm focused on repressing the anger and being a happy person, but I'm not really a happy-go-lucky person. I'm still feeling the anger. It's not about fighting against the shadows. It's about releasing the resistance. So that your shadow, they are what they are. You have that element in your personality, but it's dormant because it's not serving you any good. So
they are what they are for now, right? Because we're fluid, and that can change.
We're fluid. I guess my point is that anger piece that you feel like makes up part of your personality, it's not that it goes away, it's that it no longer serves you. So you're not fighting against it to be a happy, calm person. It's that you've let go of the resistance of being an angry person because you no longer identify with it.
That's a journey in itself.
100%. That's why this whole journey is a journey. That's why a lot of, people who do personal development, and we see it time and time again, where they've done it for a few months and then they come, they're like, it's not working. Something's blocking me, right? We're talking about blocks. So part of the thing that people need to work on is like this idea of letting go of resistance and identifying, all of the limiting beliefs and where they come from. It's a process. It's not an overnight thing. You can wake up tomorrow and be a different person, because there's certain things that you can put your mind to, and you can wake up and just realize, once you realize like this has been weighing me down, I can let go of it. It's very cathartic, and you can effortlessly let it go. If there's maybe a toxic relationship and you realize, wow, I've really been holding on to what this person thinks of me, I can release that. It doesn't matter. And you wake up the next day and you're like, that no longer bothers me. And you can do that for certain things where you can effortlessly let them go. But other things, the more ingrained things, the things that have been programmed into you and elements of yourself that have been with you for a few decades, it's a bit more of a process, first to identify, second to understand them, and then third to reframe them. I think, a process.
Yeah, I think it's a process. And I think that's why I love what we actually teach people, what we've learned, because it goes such a deep level. It's not like, identify and reframe and that's where it stops. It's, you can identify and reframe for the time being, but let's get deeper into what's making you angry. And I'm going to give you an example. Like if you're angry every time like a sibling is judgmental, every time that you visit family and your sibling is judgmental, and it makes you so angry, let's identify what that is. You're angry because they're being mean and they're judgmental, because you're giving them the power over your emotions. So you're accepting and entertaining an idea. You're giving them the power that they control your self-worth. So there's a self-image issue right there, right? So when you truly get to the bottom of, why am I allowing this person to make me feel lesser than? I should every single day, I should love myself so deeply. I should know my own ability, and I should be so proud of myself for being on this journey to become my best self, that it doesn't matter what anyone else's opinion or thoughts are of me. So that fortifies me. That gives me power. That gives me strength to say, whatever anyone else's opinion is, that's fine. That's theirs. I don't need to allow it in. I don't need to entertain that idea. They can say what they want, think what they want, do what they want. And whatever they say, even if it's rude or belligerent or ignorant, it doesn't matter. They're entitled to that because I know that I love myself. So if you are dealing with something like that, getting to the root of that, of really, there's always a self-image issue. It really always comes back to, well, then Or do you really love yourself? This is a common trait that I see with the top people who are enlightened, fulfilled, and abundant. It's they have a very, very confident, high level of self-love, right? Because when you get to a place where you really, truly, and this is why every morning part of our daily habits is you tell yourself in the mirror, I love you 10 times in a row, the first thing out of your mouth. This is really important. You're speaking to your conscious, you're speaking to your subconscious. Your thoughts and your words have so much power, but you're really, even if you don't in the moment feel it, because for a lot of people, when you start this journey, you're like, I don't really love myself because I'm not proud of what I've done in the past, and I've made mistakes, and I've had shortcomings, and I'm flawed. But getting to a place where you start telling yourself, like, you are worthy, I love you, and you're capable of so much more. And we're going to do better. We're going to do better today. We're going to do better tomorrow. And I love you. I love you. And when you really get to that deep self-love, now you're fortified against, well, if someone else doesn't really like you or love you, that's okay. You don't need it anymore because it comes from within. And I think that's really a huge message that has to be at a very deep level, right? Everything comes to you from within. The world is a reflection of what is within. So if you don't truly love yourself within deeply, other people saying things are going to hurt you. They're going to upset you. They're going to anger you. They're going to frustrate you, right? So getting to that really deep level of understanding of your self-image, how you hold it, and how you love yourself is so essential.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, this is a perfect segue, actually. You're right, because this whole notion of self-love and letting go of what other people think of you, right? It's like that buoy, removing the resistance. Because often what is keeping you under the water is your preoccupation, right? With how you're perceived and what people think of you and what people have said to you and what people could say to you and what people might not say to you, right? And all of those things hold you down. So when you let go of the resistance, because when you let go of your focus on what others think, say, or do, then you let go of so much of that resistance. And we were talking a little bit earlier today. Mel Robbins has really popularized this notion of the letting go, right? And it's this idea, and it's so true, that so much of what keeps us down is our focus and the energy we spend trying to control what other people think of us and what other people's opinions of us are. And it can cause us to be completely stunted in our growth. It can cause a massive fear of failure. The unworthiness issue, oh my gosh, it's huge, right?
That comes with self-doubt.
That comes with self-doubt. And that is going to be the one major biggest block from getting to where you want to be, because you're so afraid to take that next step in fear of what other people are going to think. And you've spent so much of your time adjusting your personality and behavior and thoughts and actions based on trying to control what other people are going to think about you and how they are going to perceive you.
And that's very common.
And it's so energy draining, because once you reclaim the energy, right, that you have been spending constantly focused on what people think of you, and then actually adjusting your behavior to match what you want them to think of you, once you let go of that energy, all of that energy goes back into you. You can put all of that energy into identifying the limiting beliefs and reframing them and doing the work and elevating your vibration. Because your authenticity, right, the highest vibration that you can be on is when you are uniquely yourself. And that cannot happen when you are spending your energy focusing on what other people think of you and how they are perceiving you. And when you are spending your time and energy trying to control and adjust that process of how people think. So you need to let go of it. Like, this is an energetic block, right? This is something that is going to always keep you down, and it's going to lead you on a road that you're not meant to go on, because it's going to lead you on a road that is steered through other people's opinions, often opinions that you don't even know they're thinking, which causes, we read Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. He has a whole chapter, and it's about all of the different fears that we have: fear of failure, fear of success, fear of what others think, fear of opinions, fear of criticism, fear of lack, fear of abundance, fear of everything. And that fear is usually based on something other than your own perception. It's based on other people's perceptions,
which is insanely common.
Insane.
I think everyone deals with this. This is why it's very common right now in society.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get to I like to go really deep and peel back the layers, because what you said is very true and it's very high level. Because you're like, once you're able to just release what everyone thinks of you, then it gets better. Yeah. How do you actually do that? That's the key, right? Mm-hmm. So everyone listening, you're like, great, Tamar, great, Matt, I'm just going to release it magically. That's the work. And that, what we have learned, is really when you start taking those steps to identify what's within, looking at you, not looking externally. How do I let go of other people's opinions of me? Starts with inner work. It starts with your self-image, right? So as an action item, if you're listening to this podcast, and if you haven't listened to all the, I don't know how many other podcasts we've had, you need to pick up Maxwell Maltz.
Psycho-cybernetics.
This is 101 game changer for your self-image, because when you are able to really love yourself and see yourself as someone who can achieve anything, and a lot of that, again, comes from belief in your ability, belief in why you were created. That's why I love the word belief. It's like everything comes back to it. If you have self-doubt, then when someone says you'll never amount to jack shit, you're not going to do anything in your life, excuse my French, it's hurtful. Why? Because we doubt ourselves, because we are looking at the external as proof of what we can achieve, because we're saying, well, I've never earned $100,000 in a month. I've only ever earned $60,000 a year. Maybe they're right. They're right. My parents said I can't. I'm not smart enough. And why would I get into real estate investing? I'm not smart enough. Why would I ever leave my job? I'm just going to stay here because the whole world, all my report cards, all my bosses, everyone is just telling me I'm never going to amount to anything. Those are all limiting beliefs. Those are all false. And those are all a result of you listening to the external, because you don't have a strong self-image and you don't have belief or an understanding. That's why study is so important. You don't have a belief or an understanding of that the fact that every human being was created with infinite potential. Infinite potential. And if you can start, I think that's the starting point for any self-development journey, personal development journey. Start with the belief that you were created with infinite potential, just like every other human. And then go, okay, well, if I have infinite potential, am I really using it? Mm-hmm. What else could I achieve? If I'm making 60,000 a year, could I make 80? Could I make 100? Could I double it? Could I triple it? You can. Well, what does that look like? And let's play with the idea of the possibility that you were meant for more and you are infinitely capable of more. And then let's start working on how you see yourself. Because when you truly believe in yourself and you love yourself, other people's opinions don't matter. They bounce off you. It's like you have a shield of armor. And you're like, anyone could walk up to me right now on the street and say, you are a worthless piece of garbage. You're never going to do anything. I'd be like, great, cool. I don't believe that at all. I have not a fiber in me. Every cell in my body has this like intoxicating belief in my own ability, right? That and self-love. Mm-hmm. So I no longer need external validation. I no longer need people's opinions. I let go of the self-doubt. And that happened through this journey, which has been years now in the making. Mm-hmm. But if you are there listening, this is really a starting point. Because if you have a block in your life where you've identified, like, I don't feel worthy, or people say things that are hurtful to me, and I just can't deal with these things. These are things that are actually blocking you from achieving greatness, right?
Yeah, I mean, the example that you gave earlier, the parents told you you're not very smart in the report card and the bosses, and so you just don't think you're going to ever achieve very much. That was kind of me, to be honest. I mean, my parents never ever said that I'm not smart. In fact, they always told me how smart I was, but every report card was like lecture time. Mm-hmm. And after school, I was always told, after school, you go to university. After school, you go to university. And so school was always very hard for me. English is my second language. School was very hard for me. University was even harder. And I struggled. And the degree that I got in the university didn't really pan into a job. So then the jobs that I was getting weren't really that satisfying or fulfilling. And in order to get a different job, when I wasn't happy at one job, I would just get another job. And so I 100% completely felt like this is all there is to it. I'm not that smart. I'm probably not meant to be, very accomplished. And that was because the framework that I had set for myself and how I could succeed and earn a living was through a 9 to 5. It was through the academics, which translated into a job, which I wasn't very good at. And therefore, I just assumed I wasn't meant to be uber wealthy. Unworthy. Yeah, 100%. And so actually, Psycho-Cybernetics, I read this book years ago before we really started doing the mindset work as intensely as we do now. And it was a complete game changer because I realized oh my God, the only reason that this is my accomplishments is because this is the accomplishments that I identify with. I identify with the person that hasn't succeeded much and hasn't really gotten very far. And once that changed, I quit my job. I started my own coaching company. I wrote a book. I started a foundation. I became a private lender. And I did a lot of things that formerly I just would have thought, that's just not me.
That's an insane a lot of things you just listed. That 2 years ago was not true. Yeah. 2 years ago, you were
an employee.
You were blocked with limiting beliefs. That's an insane transformation.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you. That's amazing.
Thank you. We have transformed the way in which we see our own limitations, and we have been able to then remove the blocks on ourselves that we had put on us and that we put on ourselves through thinking thoughts like, I'm not meant to be wealthy, or, for you, I'm a shift worker, so what else would I possibly do? Right. And we were able to break it, and we had to break that apart one block at a time, And
what's at the core of all of that? It's what you just said. I'm thinking I'm just a shift worker. I'm thinking I can't get a better job. I'm thinking I can't achieve more.
Your identity.
It's all about how you think.
Yeah, because your thoughts create your feelings create your actions, and your actions create your results. And again, we're going back to Carl Jung. Conscious mind thinks, I would like to have more. I would like to be more accomplished. Shadow, subconscious is like, nah, I'm not very good. I'm not very smart. I'm being weighed down. I don't want to, I'm this buoy. There's so many things holding me down. I can never get back to the top. It is completely unreachable for me to get to the surface of the water. I feel so heavy. I'm so weighed down. Right. And when you let go, limiting belief, it's like one finger at a time, but eventually you release all of the resistance that you have had. You release limiting beliefs one by one by reframing them, and then you naturally float back up to the vibration that you were meant to be on. It's funny, so I'll use you as an example now, which is that when we met, one of the things that I found most charming was that you were so energetic and so happy and so upbeat, and anybody that knows Matt, he's not energetic or upbeat at all. Not outgoing.
Very subdued.
Wallflower. But through years of being, you were the buoy. You kept getting pulled down and pulled down and pulled down by bosses that were like, no, we're good. And you're bringing all this stuff to work and you want to accomplish and you want to advance. And they're like, no, you're good where you are. Right. So you slowly went down and down. Your self-image sank with it. And you started to think, oh my God, is this all I'm ever going to accomplish? And for you, your identity is success, achievement, right? And when that wasn't happening for you, you were not able to fulfill your full potential. You were not able to be at your full vibration because you were being weighed down by external forces.
That's stifling. Yeah.
It's stifling, and it had an effect on your mood, and it had an effect on your thoughts, feelings, and actions, and it had an effect on everything. And when you were able to realize, I can be an investor, I can be wealthy, I don't need to work for someone else, I can be my own boss, I can be an entrepreneur, I can be all of these things.
I can do anything.
You floated back up to the top and you regained your natural vibration, which is happy, outgoing, vibrant, fun, energetic, right?
And that all stems from learning I can actually shape my identity through my thoughts. I can change my self-image. I don't have to see myself as just an employee. I can earn any amount of money that I can think of through my own infinite ability. I learned that I have an infinite ability.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that I had infinite potential. I thought I had a very limited potential. I thought that everything that I could achieve was already achieved. Everything was already in front of me that I could see because of my results. And there's so much to unpack there, but like learning to change how you think again about everything you believe in is going to change how you move and act in your world, which will change your results. And if you have a block in your life right now, it's probably because you're entertaining some ideas that you shouldn't be. So if you're like, I'm frustrated because I'm just not as successful as I thought I would be, and I've been doing this thing and it's just not working, and I'm so frustrated and it's really weighing me down. Why do you need to succeed at a certain point in time? Why do you need to succeed tomorrow? Why do you need to have $1 million by next year? Why? Is it because you need validation from other people? Again, because you don't love yourself enough, because you don't have the self-image? Why do you need it? Because you want other people to think that you're successful? Like, and then we get into the talks of, if you're really frustrated with where you are in life, there's probably a massive lack of gratitude. Right. And I always talk to people like, if you're upset and angry at your progression and your results in life, you're stealing your highest vibration and your ability to create and attract your abundance by being in a low vibration of anger and frustration, because you're forgetting all the things that you're blessed with. You woke up today. You have the gift of life today. You have air in your lungs. You have 2 hands. You have the ability to go out and create anything in this world. You have today. You have so much to be grateful for. Literally, the list goes on and on. Clean water, food, Uber Eats, like go to Starbucks, you get whatever you want. You've got family, a roof over your head, like you've got shoes on your feet, you've got clothes, you've got internet and social media, and you can make a brand tomorrow, and you can just infinite potential. And yet you choose to entertain the idea, I'm not progressing fast enough. And now I feel down. Now I'm questioning myself. Now I'm doubting. Doubt is a dangerous disease. Doubting your own ability, that you can even achieve what your goals are to achieve. That's a craziness. And let's get back into gratitude, and let's get back into the belief of the self that you were created with infinite potential.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, if you're hearing all of this and you are feeling stuck still, and you've heard us say all of this, so number one, you don't need to do this alone. Find support, find mentors, find, a community that is going to help you go through this. Find some sort of structure.
Join our free community on Facebook. What's it called?
Mind Method Coaching.
Mind Method Coaching is our free community online, where you can get daily support and motivation and guidance from us for free.
Amazing. Yes. So what I was going to say also, yes, get some support. Number 2 is, if you want to start to sort of get the wheel turning on how to start identifying as a successful person, pick up the book Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. If we have triggered something in you and you're like, yes, you know what? I have been festering on what everybody else thinks, and I have been living my life really consumed by trying to control other people's opinions. Get Mel Robbins' book.
Yep.
Let them.
Start with study.
Yeah, let them, right? If they want to think badly of you, let them. If you're going to decide that you're going to become wealthy and your parents laugh at you, let them. It's all good. You just need to take the first step that feels right for you. You don't need to do it alone. We are here to support you and we
hopefully add value to you to help guide you through your personal journey, so that we can elevate you to be your best self. And hopefully we've sparked something in you to do that. Right? Yeah,
100%. Well, it's been a great chat. I mean, we could keep talking for a very long time, but we will save our next topic for next week. So make sure to tune in. Have a wonderful day.
See you next time.
Bye.